Hello everyone, I'm Celine and it's Ramadan soon. It's in about 4 or 5 days depending on when you'll be starting, which means it's finally time to talk about my Ramadan TBR. Now, I'm not typically one to curate a physical monthly TBR for myself because I'm an aggressively violent mood reader, meaning I do not care what deadline I have. I don't care what book I've given myself. I don't know what I've told myself I'm going to read. If I am not feeling it, I'm not going to read it. Which I assumed everyone was like, but apparently people can just read what you tell them to, which I'm very envious of. However, because it's Ramadan, I do need to be very conscious about the books I choose to read and the decisions I'm making when I'm reading, which means no Shrek erotica, no sentient door erotica, which is very new and uncharted territory for me. However, I'm not going to necessarily say I didn't enjoy it. It was very entertaining, just not in the way that the author intended. So this TBR for a month is very, very big and very chunky for me. I'm not that fast of a reader. I work full time, and on the weekends I also have a lot of other work that I need to get done. So this is going to be difficult for me. I've made it a very long list because it will sort of, attest to my mood reading, meaning if I've got 6 books to choose from and I want to read 3, I will still choose those 3 from this selection. So let's get into it. The first book I'm going to be reading is Minor Detail by Adania Shibli. Adania Shibli is a Palestinian author, and this book is basically the contents of what was happening the year after the Palestinian Nakba. And this book was actually nominated to receive a prize at the Frankfurt Book Fair, and that nomination was withdrawn because of the situation in Israel and Palestine. So we were reading this online on BookTok and TikTok and Instagram as part of the Reading as Resistance Marathon. However, I never got around to reading it. I just couldn't find a way to fit it into my schedule. I wasn't reading anything at that time because it was a very intense time for me. So I will finally be getting my hands on this book and I will finally be reading it. It'll be the first one I read. It'll be the first one I speak about, but I'm very excited to read it. The next book I plan on reading is Azazil by Yusuf Zaidan. It is set in the 5th century and it follows a cryptic monk journeying through Egypt to Alexandria and then through Syria. And it's basically following this journey where he encounters the devil, Azazil. And the story is about his fight and his battle with temptation and all worldly pleasures as a monk. And I'm very, 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 very excited to read this book. It sounds fascinating. Also, the video is inverted, but the cover is absolutely stunning. And I judge books by their covers. I do not care about that statement because if you didn't want me to judge a book by its cover, you wouldn't put so much effort into it. So if you've got an ugly cover, I'm not going to read it. Anyway, I'm going to read Azazil by Yusuf Zaidan. And yeah. The third book on my list is An American Marriage by T.R.E. Jones. It follows these 2 characters, Celestial and Roy, who, as the book describes, are the embodiment of the American dream. They're both young. They're both at the cusp of really successful careers. They're excited for where their life is going to take them. And then they are completely torn apart when Roy is arrested for a crime he did not commit. America! Anyway, so this book basically follows this tale. It follows this struggle between them and the reunion and all of this. I don't know how best to explain it without spoiling it because I looked up a very detailed synopsis to try and figure out how to explain it. But An American Marriage, T.R.E. Jones, that's going to be the third book on my list. Next on the list is An Unnecessary Woman by Rabih Alamuddin, and it is about this Lebanese woman who is divorced, childless, lifeless, lonely, and living alone in her apartment in Beirut. And it explores her solitude, her relationship without her father, just the struggles of what it is to be a divorced, aging woman in the Arab world. And it just explores her solitude and her loneliness and her exploration of grief and religion, while she also just sort of oscillates between memories of pre and post Civil War Lebanon. And this is one of the first few times I've ever read a book set in Lebanon or even a book by a Lebanese author. So this is very personal for me and I'm unbelievably excited to read it. Even if it's going to break my heart, even if I don't enjoy it, it just feels good to hold in my hand a book by a Lebanese author about a Lebanese woman. I'm also especially enthusiastic to read this book because I'm going to be reading it and discussing it with a book club I'm a part of, which is mostly Lebanese women. It's not just Lebanese women, but a lot of us are Lebanese. So I think it'll be a very exciting process to discuss it with each other because the last time we were together, we discussed As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow, and that drove us into such a long, fantastic conversation about being diaspora and being an immigrant and, the discussions of religion and Islam and being torn between your Western identity and your OG identity. And it's just, I think it's going to be a very fascinating conversation that we have about An Unnecessary Woman. 5th on the list is Cursed Bunny by Bora Chung. I don't actually know anything about this book except for the fact that it is a collection of really, like, I guess, psychologically playing with your mind short stories. I don't know anything about it. I was in a bookshop with Lulwa when she was in London, and she told me to pick it up, and I did, and she told me to read the first page. And I did, and I was sold, and I bought the book then and there. So I'm going to read you that first page. She was about to flush the toilet. Mother? She looked back. There was a head popping out of the toilet, calling for her. Mother? The woman looked at it for a moment. Then she flushed the toilet. The head disappeared in a rush of water. She left the bathroom. A few days later, she met the head again in the bathroom. Mother! The woman reached to flush the toilet again. The head sputtered. No, just a minute. What? I need to read the story right now! Finally on the physical list is In the Country of Men by Hisham Matar, which is set in Tripoli, Lebanon, and is about 9-year-old Sleiman who has to take care of his family and become the man of the house when his dad has to go away for business, until one day he's in the market square and he sees his dad there. And it's an exploration of that relationship, an exploration of, grief and agony and what it is to be a man, etc., etc. At least that's what I've gathered from the synopsis. I will obviously talk about it once I've read the book, but this is going to be a good read. I just feel it in my heart, and I've only heard good things about it. Finally on the list, I don't have the physical copy yet because I literally received the email yesterday, but I cannot explain to you how desperately, how badly, how agonizingly I've wanted this book. Since I saw the Instagram launch post, I've wanted to read this, and I got offered an ARC! The book is 4 Eids and a Funeral, and it's about these two characters who were inseparable when they were younger, and they were childhood best friends, and they were like this until something happened. We don't know what it is. We're going to figure it out as we read the book. And then that just basically broke up that friendship, and they never wanted to see each other again, and they wanted nothing to do with each other until their local Islamic center burns down. And that local Islamic center burns down, and they come together for the community because they want to do anything they can to bring it back to life, to save the Islamic center. And as they do that, they sort of rekindle whatever it was that they had before, except they're now older, and we find out what it is that broke them apart, and then we see what it is that's going to bring them together. And I'm just, I cannot wait to read this book. Honestly, if that book arrives this morning, it's not morning. If that book arrives today, I am reading it right now, even though it's not Ramadan yet, even though I said that that's the order I'm going to read these books, and I am going to read that book as soon as it is in my hands. I'm so excited for it. Anyway, that is my Ramadan safe TBR. I'm very, very excited to read it. I'm so looking forward to all of these books, and I'm glad that I finally set myself a list, because I always have such a long list of books I want to read, and I never get around to them because of the mood reading, but I'm being very strict with myself, and I'm going to read these, and I cannot wait to read them and talk about them. So yeah, if you've curated a list for yourself and you've got a Ramadan TBR or even just a March, April TBR, let me know. I want to know. Okay, thank you. Bye.